Testing for the YouTube stream, testing microphone for the YouTube stream.
Good morning, everyone. Today is May 4th, 2023. Welcome to the City of Toronto Scarborough District Committee of Adjustment hearing. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, which is an online digital platform, and it is streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using the WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone who's wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching it on the YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to a panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Before we begin, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to a property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or the TLAB, and in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or the OLT. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms that are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. In terms of the hearing procedure, I will call each item in the order as it's listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposal at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to receive the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Please remember that we are here to listen to your concerns. However, repeating the same comments will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Before we begin, can I please receive confirmation of minutes of the last meeting? Committee members, have you received the minutes of the last meeting, and can you please confirm the receipt? Can I have a motion? Please go ahead, Member Gary.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, I've received the minutes and reviewed those, so I would move that we adopt the minutes from the previous hearing.
Thank you, and may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion.
Thank you, and all in favor of the motion? The motion is carried unanimously, and the minutes of the last meeting have been adopted. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for the items listed in the morning slot? And I just want to confirm that for our morning session, we are dealing with items 1 to 15. So are there any declarations of interest of staff or panel members? I see none. All right, we will proceed. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through the chair, there's one deferral request for the morning session, item number 9, 91 NEILSON Avenue. Deferral signing die at the request of the applicant in order to correctly identify all requested variances.
Thank you, Colin. Is the applicant available to talk about the deferral requests? Can we please have Krishna Shah? Is Faisal there? They're not there? Okay. So committee members, we have received a request for deferral from the applicant for 91 NEILSON Avenue for reasons as described by Colin. Are there any concerns for the request for deferral? And if not, can I have a motion, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward motion for deferral of item 9, sign and die. And this deferral is because the applicant have to correctly identify the requested variances.
Thank you, Member Said. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay, please go ahead.
Yes, I second that motion to defer, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been deferred sine die. Thank you. So item 9 has been deferred. Are there any further requests for deferral? Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through the chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you very much. Since there are no other requests for deferral, we can begin with the vetting of the agenda. So we will start with the first item. The first item is 1480 Midland Avenue. And I see that there are no registered speakers to speak on this application. Can I please have Safa Al-Hamdani as the applicant on this application? This is 1480 Midland Avenue. Thank you.
Hi. Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, is this Safa?
Yeah, Safa, yes.
Hi, good morning. Safa, so we're dealing with your application on 1480
Good morning.
Midland Avenue. Please confirm your name and address.
Yes. My name is Safa Al-Hamdani. I am the engineer and representative of the client for 1480 Midland Avenue. We are applying for the zoning change to, the body shop and car mechanics.
Okay, thank you, sir, for confirming that. I don't believe there are any conditions from any department or agency. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Safa at this time? I see none. All right. So Safa, there are no questions of the committee members, so we can go forward for the motion. So members of the committee, if you have no comments, can I please have a motion? And I note that there are no conditions here. Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we understand, the applicant has requested for the usage, different usage, to use this land as a auto shop. Madam Chair, I believe this is a minor variance and we can approve that. Therefore, I put forward motion for approval of item number 1, and there are no conditions for this approval.
Thank you, Member Said. Yes, Member Igor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll second that motion for approval.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application for 1480 Midland Avenue has been approved. Thank you. Moving to the next item, item number 2. Item number 2 is 50 DOLLY VARDEN Boulevard. And I see that there are no registered speakers for this application. Can we please have the agent, John Lurero?
It's John Lurero here.
Good morning, John. John, we have your application before us.
Good morning.
And do you have any comment at this time for the committee?
No comments. It's a pretty straightforward application.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions for John? I note that there are no conditions as far as I can see. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the variances are minor, but George, I have just a question. This is a side garage addition. So the existing garage, is this a garage it's a carport or it's a garage like property building?
It's an existing carport, but the client would like to build an enclosed garage.
Right, so existing is a carport. That's what I was looking at the street map. I could not find the garage. So the carport is going to be demolished and then it's going to be developed. It's a new garage there. Am I correct?
Yes, it's a new garage, but we're trying to keep a portion of the existing roof to not change too much of the front elevation. Like we're keeping a portion of the existing carport roof.
So there's a
Thank you,
carport,
Josh.
they're
Thank you, Madam
built, so they're integrating it into a attached garage.
Yes.
Does that help you, Mr. Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That helps me. Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
Thank you. So if there are no further questions, can I please have a motion on this application? And again, I note there are no conditions here. Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe both the variances before the committee, they are minor in nature, and I put forward motion for approval of this application, and there are no conditions to that.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application's approved. Thank you. Moving to
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Moving to item number 3, 571 Morrish Road. Can we please have the applicant with us?
This is Sri Chandra.
Good morning, Sri Chandra. Good morning. Sri Chandra, we have your application for 570 Morrish Road. And I believe staff has been in contact with you this morning about some concerns with the variances as they've been identified on the notice. Do you have any comments at this time?
It's very minor in nature. We applied for like a small minor, just an extension of the house to the front yard for a variation of 2.97 meters. But we're not actually asking for nothing more than that. I don't know where's the mistake that has happened on that. The required variance was 8.67 when we are extending by 2.97, and it would be 6 meters after the extension.
Okay, so here's, I think, what has happened. There's been some Okay, so we'll pull up the notice on the screen so you can, so everyone can see.
Sure.
Can we zoom in a bit? All right, perfect, thank you. So just bear with us for a second. Can you zoom in a little bit more? Thank you very much. Okay, so the proposed, the required minimum front yard is 8.97. And what is being
Yes.
proposed is 6 meters. Okay, that's the zoning
Yes.
notice. That's the zoning review. Now, what has happened is
Right.
that on the notice itself, the public notice that was issued for the hearing today, if you bear with us for a second, right there, there's been an error on the notice, so it's just the numbers have been swapped. So what the notice says is that the minimum required front yard setback is 6 meters, whereas the proposed front yard setback is 8.9. It's just, the numbers got switched. Okay?
Okay.
So the concern here is that, and unfortunately, this constitutes improper notice under the Planning Act requirements for notification. That's something that we can't help right now. So because it constitutes improper notice, we are unable to proceed with the hearing of this item today because another notice has to be issued with the proper information or accurate information. So the matter would have to be deferred until a new notice is issued, and then we can come back.
In the meantime, can we apply? Can we start the process for a building permit? Can you give us the permission to start the building permit process so that maybe in the meantime, in the next month, if it's approved, we would be in the process to finish the application. Can that be included?
So from what I understand, yes, you can, but again, I would highly recommend that you contact city staff, either
Sure.
community, I don't know, building staff? Building staff. So contact
Yes,
building staff, and let them know of the situation, and they can guide you how
Sure.
you can proceed. But what I can get confirmation from staff is, can we bring them back to the next hearing, please?
Through the chair, this will be, we will issue notice for the June 1st hearing. We just want to confirm with the applicant if they are available to attend the June 1st hearing.
Yep, we should be available for that.
So we will issue, should the committee make a decision to defer to the June 1st, we will issue notice, public notice for the June 1st hearing, a separate public notice.
Thank you, Colin. That would be very helpful, and at least it can get the applicant in line with what his construction needs are. Okay, so I appreciate your understanding, Shri Chandra, on this. Unfortunately, we have to come back. So committee members, do you have any questions or comments or concerns with this situation? And if not, then can I have a motion to defer this application? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the applicant for having an understanding about this insufficient notice. Madam Chair, I put forward motion for deferral of this application and bring it back for our next meeting in June 1st.
Thank you for that. So we have a motion on the floor to defer the application until the next hearing on June 1st. May I have a seconder, please? Member Igor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll second that motion for deferral. Sorry.
Sure, thank you. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried and the application has been approved. So the application has been approved unanimously. See you next month, Shri Chandra.
Okay, thanks a lot, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we now move to item 4. Item 4 is 8 CLAIRLEA Crescent. I note that there are no registered speakers. Can we please have the applicant, Addison Milne Price? Thank you. Addison, are you with us?
Any members? Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, so I can hear you. Thank you, Addison, for joining us this morning. So we are dealing with your application for minor variance for 8 CLAIRLEA Crescent. And I note that, do you have any comment at this time?
No, I have no comments other than I have no issue with the recommended conditions from urban forestry staff.
Okay, and there's also a report from community planning staff dated April 24th, and they are recommending a condition. Have you had a chance to review that report?
Yes, I have reviewed that report. I also have no issue with that condition either. However, I just will note quickly that report is not publicly available. It is not on the AIC.
That is the community planning report dated April 24th.
Through the chair, we will make it available for public viewing. That was an error on our part.
Okay, all right. So staff has noted that and will make the updates to the AIC, I believe it is. And but you have confirmed that you have no concerns with the recommended conditions of urban forestry number 1 and 2, as well as the particular condition in community planning staff report. So on that note, I would now move to the committee. Committee members, any questions? I see none. All right, then can I have a motion, please? Member Gary, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think the tests are met with respect to the 2 minor variances that are being sought, so I would move approval of this application, subject to the urban forestry condition and subject to the community planning condition relating time to site plan.
Thank you, Member Gary. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval, and there are with the conditions of urban forestry condition number 1 and 2 and community planning staff recommendation.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application has been approved subject to conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we now move to our next item, and our next item is 28 BOBMAR Road, item 5. But I do know that there's, sorry?
Through the chair, we did have a speaker registered.
Which one? For which one?
That speaker is not available for the hearing. We tried contacting.
For item 5?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right. Okay. So, okay, that helps. So we did, just for record, I did have a registered speaker on this item, but staff has advised me that they're no longer, they're not online today or not connected. So we can proceed, and that was the only registered speaker, so we can proceed with dealing with this item through the vetting. So 28 BOBMAR, since there is no registered speaker connected with us this morning, I would like to ask the applicant, Chris Pereira, to please join us. Chris, are you with us?
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chris. Thank you. So, Chris, we have your minor variance application before us to demolish existing dwelling and to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling and a garden suite. And before us are 5 variances that you have requested. Do you have any comments at this time for the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, wanted to kind of describe this. So this proposal is very much consistent with the new garden suite bylaw that the city has advanced as part of the missing middle. This is a demolition of an existing house and the creation of a new 2-story house and then a garden suite. Given the depth of this particular lot, you can see it's very, very deep. So there was ample opportunity to implement, the city's garden suite bylaw, and we were pleased to do so. The variances, in my view, are extremely minor. One variance for the for the garden suite, which has nothing to do with the garden suite itself, has something to do with whether a balcony is opaque or not. I believe the variances for the main house are also, quite minor and quite reasonable. And this is, I believe it meets the 4 tests of minor variance very clearly. If the committee has any questions for me, I'm available to answer.
Thank you, Chris, for your submission. I just want to confirm that community planning staff have recommended a condition in the report dated April 25. Have you had the opportunity to review that condition? And if so, do you have any concerns?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have reviewed it. We have no concerns with tying any decision here made today to the drawings attached to the staff report. That's precisely what the owner wants to proceed with anyways.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that confirmation. So I move to the committee now. Committee members, questions, comments for Chris? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chris, I have a question which relate to variance number 4, and that is the front yard landscaping condition. Now, what I understand this, there are certain exceeds to the what is permitted in the bylaws, especially the building length, building depth. They are exceeding the limits. So you are, it looked like it's an overdevelopment. You are extending these limits. But at the same time, while the limits are extended, overdevelopments are there, I wonder what are the factors which are which do not allow you to meet the condition of 75% of the front yard landscaping?
The question is why we're unable to meet the minimum front yard landscaping. A combination of the required front yard setback, likely. Let me just look at the drawings, actually. It's a combination of factors, I would imagine, through the required front yard setbacks, well, I think what really speaks to the application is while we may not be meeting that front yard landscape requirement, and we do have a driveway and a walkway, so it does take up some of that space, but the proposal still complies with the coverage of the bylaw, so I think that really speaks to the proposal not being an overdevelopment of the site at all.
Chris, because I have the concern on that. You know what, when I was looking at the street view on BOBMAR Road, your dwelling is right next to the school building, right? If I'm correct. The school building have a beautiful green lands, open lands, and immediately after that, when the dwelling starts, you are the first one. And the front yard is going to be overcrowded and you are not meeting. I wonder if you can still consider, go back to your drawing and can see if you can meet the condition of front yard landscaping.
Well, I'm not the architect. Through you, Madam Chair, I am not the architect, so I don't know if what the implications of meeting that are. The concern is, what I would be concerned is if we start pushing the building back and creating more front yard landscaping, all we're simply doing is creating additional variances in the back, because we need to be separated from the garden suite a certain metric amount. So if we start squeezing things even going further west, I worry that while we are solving one variance, we're creating 2 more. So that would be what I would caution the committee.
And if staff, can you pull up the site plan, please? I want to kind of indicate on the plan for everyone's benefit. If you look at the front main wall of the proposed house, it is except that protrusion of the porch that's sticking out, but I'd say that it's kind of in line with the adjacent house. Right? Maybe it's slightly pushed back even.
Yes, Madam Chair, that is what we are seeing, and that was done by design, trying to line up the front wall of houses. It's a standard planning kind of design practice that we do in these types of situations, and really just kind of trying to continue what is already being created by number 30 and 32 and then 34 and going east along. Sorry, that would be going north along BOBMAR.
Okay, so I just wanted to point that out to Member State as well. I think there's an attempt being made, and this is just my interpretation of the drawing, so there's an attempt being made to align the front main walls of with the adjacent house as well. We're trying to, and I'm not sure, I'm not a zoning person or do I have that information, but potentially it may cause impact to required front yard setbacks, whatnot. But again, this is just hypothetical or my assumption here. But that's what it is. Member Macaulay?
I think the issue that Member Mohammed raised is the issue of the front yard landscaping being 68% versus 75%. And I think really the issue is we're looking at getting as much green space and much permeable landscaping as possible. This is a fairly large lot, and even with the garden suite, I noticed that we've got a a rear yard of 64 feet. So on a lot of this size, I'm not as concerned about the amount of green space, the amount of permeable porous space for landscaping and for the soil to absorb the groundwater. So I don't really have a problem with this. I understand what they're trying to do and think that the minor reduction in the front yard landscaping really is made up by the overall amount of landscaping on the site, overall green space on the site.
Okay, thank you, Member Macaulay, for your comment. So again, I want to caution the committee, this is a vetting. So we're vetting the agenda. So if there are more questions, comments, we can hold it down, but if not, then we can proceed with the decision. I just want to be fair to everyone here. Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm not very clear. There was limited choices and the applicant must have looked into that. That's a good thing. Applicant have an understanding of the community planning recommendations there. So Madam Chair, if the other committee members don't have any comments on that, I would put forward motion.
Please do.
For approval of this application, subject to the community planning recommendations.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Oh, sorry, seconder. Member Macaulay, second. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will second that motion
Thank you. And
for
all
approval.
all in favor of this motion? It's unanimous and the motion's carried. Thank you. The application's approved and there's a condition. Moving to the next item, item 6, 195 Birkdale Road. I note that there are no registered speakers. Can we please have the applicant, Paul Dowsett? Hello, Paul, are you with us?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Paul Dowsett from the Architect Builders Collaborative.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Paul. We have your application for 195 Birkdale Road with us today, and there is one variance that is being requested. I do not see that there are any conditions or recommendations from any other department. I do know that there is a petition of support. There are 6 signatures on that petition. Members of the committee, any comments, questions for Paul? I see none. All right. So Paul, any comment before I go to the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very simply, we're looking to construct a replacement rear yard deck. The existing deck has an area of 31.31 square meters. Our replacement deck has an area just about half of that at 15.93 square meters. Thank you.
Thank you for that submission. Members of the committee, can I please have a motion on the application? There are no conditions. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a very minor application. Obviously, the rear yard deck is proposed to be smaller than the existing. I recommend approval of this. There are no conditions.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion.
All right. All in favor of this motion? All in favor? Motion's carried. It was unanimous, so the application has been approved. Thank you. Moving to item 7. Item 7 is 2 MEDONTE Avenue. I note that there is a neighbor who is registered to speak. So I will hold down this item and come back to it in the main body. So 2 MEDONTE Avenue is being held for further discussion. Item 8, 5 Commonwealth Avenue.
Through the chair, the registered speaker is not present.
For item 8? Okay, thank you. So for record, we did have a registered speaker for 5 Commonwealth Avenue, but staff confirms that the neighbor is not online at this time, so we can move forward with this item at this point. So 5 Commonwealth Avenue, can we please have Jesse Raju Kanath?
I'm will be speaking on behalf of 5 Commonwealth Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Jesse, you have, you know that there's a
I'm not
condition.
able to hear.
No, yeah, sure. You know that there's a condition from Urban Forestry as well as the condition from Metrolinx. Do you have any concerns or questions on those conditions?
No, I don't have any concerns or any regarding the McDonald's as well as the tree protection from the Urban Forestry.
Thank you very much for that. Members of the committee, any questions? There are 4 variances on this application. If there are no questions or comments, can I please have a motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the 4 variances before us, they are minor in nature, appropriate, and Jesse has already confirmed understanding of urban forestry conditions and Metrolinx condition. Madam Chair, I put forward motion for approval of item 8, subject to urban forestry condition number 1 and Metrolinx conditions.
Thank you for that. May I have a seconder? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application has been approved subject to conditions. Thank you. Next item, item number 10. Item 10 is 6 Freeman Street. There are no registered speakers on this application. Can I please have the agent, David Smith? Hello, David, you
Good morning,
with
Madam
us?
Chair.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, thank you for
I'll,
joining us today, David. Any comment, please?
I was just going to introduce myself more formally. No real comments. I think this is a relatively straightforward application. We have letters of support on file. I saw a report from transportation with no objection. I'd be happy to answer any questions that staff have.
That's great, thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for David? I see none. All right. If there are no questions, can I please have a motion? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is in the Birchcliff community. So I think the coverage and FSI are appropriate for that community. They fit into the community very well. The application therefore appears to be minor and I recommend approval.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. May I have a seconder, please? Member Igor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll second that motion for approval.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? Motion's carried unanimously and the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. We now move to the third item. Item 11. Item 11 is 1 Fallingbrook Road. And I note that there is a neighbor registered to speak. We need that person. Okay. So staff confirms that the neighbor is signed in. So we will hold down this item and come back. So 1 Fallingbrook Road is being held for further discussion. That's item 11. Okay. We now move to item 12, and item 12 is 80 SCOTTFIELD Drive. Can we please have the agent Brandon Simon? Hello, Brandon, are you with us?
Yes, Madam Chair, but if you could please refer to Mr. Bruce Hall, who's also a registered speaker, he'll be speaking on the matter.
Okay, thank you for that. Bruce, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Bruce. Thank you for joining us this morning. Bruce, just bear with me for a second. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions for Bruce? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the applicant have a presentation, quite detailed presentation on this this project, Madam Chair. May I suggest if we can hold this item and have a listen to the presenter? At that point, we might ask certain questions on that.
Okay, thank you, Member Said, for that. So, Bruce, you heard our committee member would like to hear from you in a presentation. So we're going to hold down this item and come back to it in the main body of the meeting.
Not a problem.
Thank you very much for your time. All right, so I can confirm that item 12 for 80 SCOTTFIELD Drive is being held for further discussion. We now move to our next item, item 13. Item 13 is 898 Danforth Road, and I do not see any registered speaker. So can we please have the owner, Hagen Turan?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Hagen, 898.
Hagen, could you please speak a bit louder? We can't hear you.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, my name is Hagen Turan, owner and the applicant of 8.
Okay, thank you for joining us this morning. Hagen, we have your minor variance application before us. Any comment at this time? Do you have a...
Chair, may I proceed?
Yeah, just please go ahead. We're vetting the agenda, so if you have a comment before I take the matter into committee, please go ahead.
I have 2 children, Madam Chair and the committee members. I should say they're grown-ups now, the university students and grade 11. We are now in a stage that everyone requires privacy, and unfortunately it seems unrealistic due to the economy to have it elsewhere. Therefore, we wish to use most of our property and have a separate living space for my children in the future. And I believe the variances that I'm requesting are minor, desirable, and appropriate for the development of the property and maintains the general intent purpose of the city's zoning bylaw. Therefore, I'm asking and requesting you to grant my application for minor variances.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Hagen, for that comment and a little background on the application. Committee members, do you have any questions or concerns with the application? I see none. All right, and I can confirm that there are no conditions or comments from any department or agency. So committee members, can I have a motion on this? This is 898 Danforth Road. Member State, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prior to that, I was having a question. I raised my hand. I think I was not noticed. So
Oh, I'm
can
so
I
sorry.
just ask that question, Madam Chair?
Please go ahead. My apologies. I
It's
didn't
okay.
notice
It's
that.
okay.
Go ahead.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. The question is very quick and very short. I just wanted to confirm it from the owner that this is the variance they are requesting, although they are adding a second addition, but the variance is this the existing condition for the ground floor, these variances?
Yes, it is existing. So the main issue here is the setback, which is the long existing setback. We would like to preserve the setback in construction of the second floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to confirm that. So, Madam Chair, as the applicant confirmed, this is an existing condition. So therefore, I believe the variances are minor and these are appropriate. So I support this application and put forward motion for approval of this application, and there are no conditions to this.
Thank you. Seconder, Member Macaulay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of the motion? The motion's carries unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So moving to the next item, item 14, 23 Knowlton Drive. I'd note that there are registered speakers on this application, so we will hold down and come back to it in the main body. So this is 23 Knowlton Drive that is being held for further discussion. Moving to the next one, item 15. Item 15 is 90 Mike Myers Drive. There are no registered speakers. Can we please have the applicant, Chris Zekas? Hello, Chris, are you with us?
I'm here, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you. And with me is Paul Cronus, our planner, and Leo Macromikolas, our architect. We are in the same room, so they are not logging in separately.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that introduction to your team members here. I appreciate that. Any comments on your application at this time?
No, Madam Chair, we did note that there was a letter of concern or objection filed recently. I just wanted to focus on that letter for a moment, if I could. The applicant raises concern about the setback. The setback was created erroneously, I would suggest, when the site-specific zoning provisions were transcribed into the general bylaw. And really, what we're doing is we've moved the one-story multi-purpose room back from the neighbor's home. And that's what creates the larger setback. If you look at the plans, the first plan, you'll see the 33 meters from the street to the one-story multi-purpose room. If that one-story multi-purpose room were slid south to the street, we would be in compliance with the bylaw, but that would do the neighbor no favors at all. The area between the facility and the house will be landscaped. There is approximately 10 feet of landscaping that's proposed there. And the parking that is shown is for visitors only. So those are the only comments that I have on the letter that has been filed. Otherwise, we are content with all of the conditions suggested by urban forestry. We note that the planning has lent its support to the application, and I would simply say it's a very needed facility which the province is supporting financially.
Thank you, Chris, for that background and information and clarifying or focusing on the concerns raised by the neighbor. And you have confirmed that you have no concerns with the conditions. I do note that there was a condition from Metrolinx to prepare and submit a noise and vibration study and to grant an easement and insert several warning clauses. And I'm assuming you have knowledge of that. And do you have any questions or concerns with that as well?
We do have knowledge of it. We have no questions or concerns.
Good.
That's great.
All right.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to go to the committee members now. Committee members, do you have any questions of Chris or his team members? Member Said and then Member Macaulay. So we'll start with Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully we can handle it in this voting session. Chris, my question is about variance number 1. I mean, the question I am going to ask is not directly related to the variance, but indirectly it is related to that with the lot coverage. Tell me about you have given the details of suites and beds and how many beds are in a suite, different suites and bed, but I was not able to find out like the exact total number of beds. That is the first part, but the most important part is, do you have a license from the ministry and how many beds you have got approved from the ministry at this point of time and how you relate that with the lot coverage in variance number 1?
The ministry has approved the home for 128 beds, which will be contained in 96 suites. The Ministry of Health creates very specific requirements for how much space there must be for each of the beds, both in terms of the room size and the amenity areas, the common areas, the dining room, etc. So the proposed building is really, it takes the form that is required of it by the ministry's requirements. And one thing I would indicate is that the proposed building is actually smaller in terms of its exterior than the existing building because it has a smaller courtyard. So there are 128 beds, 96 suites, and the spacing requirements are as set out by the ministry regulations.
Does that help you, Member Said?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So moving to Member Macaulay. Member Macaulay, you had a question?
Yes, my question is very short. There is an objection from the adjacent neighbor, and their concern, I think, is privacy. That concern can be addressed through the site plan approval in terms of fencing and landscaping. So my question is to the applicant, have you submitted a site plan application yet?
Yes. Could I turn this over to Mr. Cronus, please?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, members. Good morning, members of the committee and Chair Paul Cronus. I'm a senior land use planner with Weir Falls. We have consulted with the planning department. We went through a pre-consultation process. We're in the process of assembling the appropriate team, including the landscape architect that will address these concerns. It's noted that we have the letter which just, I think, was posted recently, but we will address those landscape requirements as part of the, there is, like Mr. Zika says, a 3 meter, roughly 10 feet of available space that will be landscaped and fenced. We too have an interest from landscaping the area and also fencing it off for obvious reasons to prevent. There's currently people that use the vacant site to proceed from Lawrence Avenue down towards Mike Myers as a cutoff. And, you know, that creates a trespassing. With the redevelopment of the site, all that will be improved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cronus, for that. Go ahead, Member Macaulay.
And I'm assuming from your answer that your application for site plan approval is still under, you're still preparing that application.
Yes, we needed to know what this committee's decision would be first. We are under pretty extreme time pressures. The ministry has indicated that they want us to be shovel ready by August. So we are keenly aware of the requirements and of getting through site plan just as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you. Good luck and move as fast as you can. And
thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you for
no
those.
further questions, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Member Macaulay. I don't see any other hand or raised from our committee members. So at this point, Member Macaulay, is there anything? Okay, you want to put forward a motion? Go ahead.
Put forth the motion.
Please go ahead.
Prepared to put forth the motion for approval. I don't believe there's any condition. Oh, yes, there's a condition from Metrolinx.
And urban forestry.
And urban forestry.
And urban forestry.
And urban forestry. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the application subject to condition of urban forestry and Metrolinx. That's a motion. May I have a seconder? Member Igor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll second that motion for approval.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The application has been approved unanimously. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Zekers and your team, and good luck with your next steps.
Thank you.
Moving to the next item, item 16. Item 16 is 73 Cleta Drive. And I know that there's a registered speaker. Staff, is the neighbor registered or sorry, is the neighbor online?
Through the chair, that's the afternoon session.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. My apologies, yes.
So they're not there.
Why would they be there? Okay. That's why I need you guys to help me, keep me on track. So that brings us to the end of the agenda for the morning session, and we have dealt with all the items from 1 to 15. And on that, I would like to recap again to keep me on track. So the items that were held for discussion are item 7, item 11, item 12, and item 14. Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's begin with our first application that was held for further discussion, and that would be item number, 7. Item number 7 is 2 Medonte Avenue, and we have the applicant registered with us as Mike D. Oliveira. Mike, are you with us?
My name is Mike D. Oliveira. I'm here representing Team Medonte Avenue, and I'm with Replace Design located at 911 Davenport Road.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us this morning. Mike, would you like to make a presentation or any comments that you have at this time for your application?
Certainly. So we have 3 variances here today. I believe they're quite minor when you take into account the existing conditions of the home. In particular, the building length and building depth were actually only 10 inches or 0.25 meters over the current existing building depth when measured from the front rearmost wall of the dwelling. We also have a variance related to the coverage. When you look at the 500-meter kind of radius of this property, we're well within other approvals where we see around 40 to 43% along neighboring streets, and we're simply asking for 38.25 here. This is built over what was an existing deck, so it all complies with the FSI, side setback, soft landscaping variances for this area. And we also have no conditions from community planning or forestry on this.
All right, thank
Open
you.
any questions you might have at the moment.
Sure, thank you, Mike. That's very helpful. Members of the committee, any questions for Mike? I do not see any hands in the video. Okay. All right, so maybe what we can do is, committee members, if you have more questions, we can always come back when we deliberate on this. So let's move to our neighbor who has registered to speak on this application, and it's Victor and April Galbraith. Can we have Victor and April? Hello, Victor, are you with us? Hello, Victor, are you with us?
Yes. On this application, is that there to build the front porch and the back room, or is it just to legalize what's already there?
So the application that is before us to screen the existing rear yard deck. So staff, if you can please have the site plan on the screen, that would be very helpful. So Victor, on the screen that you see, there's a site plan and it shows an existing deck at the back. So what the applicant is asking to do, and that's shown on the next plan, the subsequent plan, is to screen that deck. To create a...
Okay, but that's already been done. That's already done.
Okay, so that we can get that confirmation from the applicant if that's been done or not done. What I would like to hear from you is, do you have any concerns? Consider this as not done. Do you have any concerns with this application?
Well, I know it's going to be approved anyway, so My concern is the water runoff is where it's going, because it's coming right over to the fence line and it's washing away part of my yard.
Okay.
But the front porch that is on there and the room for the over the back deck, that's already there.
Okay, so
It's already been built.
okay, so when you say front porch, you mean, are you referring to this existing rear yard deck, or are you talking to something at the front of the building?
Well, the application is done for both.
Okay, so I see what you mean.
The front porch.
Yeah. I see what you mean. The front and the rear
And
addition.
Yeah, and everything has already been built.
Okay,
So,
all right.
in my opinion, all they're doing is trying to do what they've already done to make it legal.
Okay. We will go back to the applicant and get a response to you on that.
Okay.
Is there anything more that you would like to add?
Well, that's about all I can add,
Okay.
because I know everything's going to be approved, no matter what, but
Okay.
it seems that this person just seems to think they can do whatever they want without doing it properly, because the back wall of the on the deck, they got the windows sitting on the railing of the deck that was there with no studs.
I see. I see.
So it's not even up to code.
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely a code issue and construction issues, and we're not the experts here to comment on that, but I totally see your point that, yes, it is not appropriate to construct without the appropriate permissions, that's for sure. And we can certainly get that confirmation from the applicant as to why that had occurred and what the next steps would be. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. So coming back to the applicant, Mike.
Yes, Chair. So in full transparency, yes, this work was performed by our clients themselves without proper knowledge of the zoning and OBC bylaws at the time. So the neighbor is correct. These items have already been built. We've been dealing with the client since about September 2020 to try and sort out all the issues with the as-built structures and try and make sure things will conform as closely as possible with the zoning bylaws. And based on how things proceed today, make sure things comply with all OBC regulations moving forward. So all the OBC issues will be addressed as we proceed with the proper building permit applications, assuming we get approval here today. We're already in the process of all this. This is how we kind of got these variances all together today to come to the committee. As you mentioned in your discussions with the neighbor, the reason that the drawings show the deck is because typically any committee application is to be looked at based on the merits as if it hasn't been constructed. That's why the existing deck was shown the way it is. That is what was there as per a 2017 permit that our clients had for previous work that had been done on the property. So that existing outline of the screened-in porch is as per an existing deck that was there, which is what those drawings were based off of. So we're here today to try and legalize the items that were built according to the footprint, and we'll deal with any OBC conditions as required. I understand the neighbor's main concern that they brought up was in terms of water runoff. As you know, any water has to be directly dealt with on our client's own property. So there's certainly steps we can take there to mitigate those issues. That would simply just mean relocating some east troughs and such, but I believe that's all something that we can handle moving forward if we get your approval here today.
Okay, so just a clarification question that you mentioned some sort of a previous permit. So that previous permit allowed for that wood deck without screening, correct?
Yes, but that deck, even in that previous permit, had already been there. So this is a deck that's been there for years. It's just since been screened in,
Okay.
I believe sometime in late 2019, early 2020, at which point afterwards we were brought in to help legalize all of this.
Okay, so the reason why I'm asking you is to flush out or create a distinction between the existing deck and the screening, which is existing, but let's consider that as being proposed. So the deck itself does not trigger any variance. It's the screening of the deck that is causing the lot coverage to increase, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's the distinction I wanted to make, is that deck is legal. It's a screening that could be done, but of course, because it's triggering a lot coverage, that's what this application is about. And it also includes a front porch. And that is also adding, that was constructed without a permit, and that is also adding to the lot coverage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and of course, that impacts the length of the house, the building length and the building depth because of that extension and the enclosure of the deck, because then that creates an enclosed space.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to make that distinction because the neighbor had some concerns around the deck being there and then that being enclosed. So I wanted to make sure that that's out of the way. And as you mentioned, the drainage and the grading and anything that's associated with now legal permits or the work that would have to be completed through permits would all be legalized, and the grading and the drainage issues will be addressed through the building permit process.
Correct.
Okay, and any works that would have to be performed in order to comply with the permit will be completed.
Yes, that is our intention. Any work would happen within that same footprint, so that's all something, assuming we move forward with approval, that's easy enough for us to accomplish moving forward with the OC.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification and confirmation. So let's go to our committee now. Committee members, any comments, any questions for the applicant? Mike? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for making all these distinctions. Actually, many of my questions, Madam Chair, you answered that in your elaboration. But still, I'm getting one point. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I want to know, the applicant mentioned that this deck has been there for the last 5 years, since 2017. I'm still not sure whether the existing deck is without screening or this has been existing with screening for the last many years.
So the existing deck portion itself, that was without screening, and I'm not sure exactly when that deck was built in the first place, but I can say as per 2017 permit that they had for other work on the property, that deck was existing under the same footprint. It just didn't have any screening at that time. So that screening is what occurred in the last couple of years here, which I think was between 2019 to about mid-2020 when they approached us to try and legalize the items.
Okay, Member Said, does that help you?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions? Okay, I see none. All right, Mike, thank you for taking the time to speak with us this morning, and appreciate the neighbor as well. Now, I take the matter into committee. There are no conditions or comments from any agency. Are we prepared to put forward a motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the applicant, Chris, and I appreciate you are trying to accommodate the concern raised by the neighbor. And you can still talk to them, that's the next door neighbor. I hope you can resolve many of that issues. Madam Chair, as far as the variances before the committee are concerned, these 3 variances, they are minor in nature, I feel appropriate. I put forward motion for approval of this application, and there are no conditions to that.
Thank you, Member Said, for that. And may I have a seconder? I know, Member Gary, you had your hand up. Would you wish to second the motion? Please go ahead.
Yes, I would, Madam Chair. Yes, I second that motion to approve this application, and there are no conditions.
Thank you, Member McKay, for that. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
So our next item is item 11, and item 11 is 1 Fallingbrook Road. Can we please have the applicant, David Bronxkill? Hello, David, are you with us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am, Madam Chair. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And I'll just introduce myself, Madam Chair, and give my address for staff. David Bronskill from Goodman's LLP, appearing as agent for the applicant. Our mailing address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario. And I'm here, Madam Chair, to present this application regarding, frankly, a beautiful home on Fallingbrook with heritage value that is in desperate need of the love and attention that our client wants to give it. Madam Chair, I'm in your hands in terms of if there are specific aspects of the presentation, and I'm wondering if staff are able to reach the other speaker or not in terms of whether I should do everything in my 5 minutes and or wait to hear what that speaker has to say.
Okay, so all the registered speakers appear to be online, David, so I'm in your hands.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
How would you wish to proceed? Would you like to spend your 5 minutes through a presentation, or would you rather wait for questions?
Why don't I do a short presentation, Madam Chair, and then I'm
Sure.
happy to take committee questions at the end of the presentation. I would then listen to those who are here to speak and provide a response to them at the appropriate time, if that's all right.
That works for me. And do you want us to share your presentation materials online on the screen?
That would be helpful. I think it's the 10-page PDF, if staff are able to put that up for all the members.
Yeah, we can certainly pull that up. Give us a few seconds and it should be up, and then you can let us know how to proceed with the slides then.
There it is, and thank you, Madam Chair. So the first slide is just a set of statistics that's there for the committee as they may need them. It highlights some of the variances. I'm, Madam Chair, going to highlight through the presentation in particular 3 areas, one being length and depth, another just being height to the top of the roof, and then another related to the stories. Madam Chair, the existing structure, and if I could ask staff just to orient you to it, page 7 of the PDF has some images of the existing building on the lot. The top row of the images for the committee, there's 3 of them there. They show you, apologies to staff, I know it's difficult to, staff, there it is, thank you. You can see there the beautiful heritage home. Those top 3 images are what will be restored as part of the proposal that's before you. The bottom 3 images, through extensive work with heritage staff, are portions of the building that don't have heritage value and would be removed and then rebuilt. It is a beautiful home. It has fallen not under our client's care into disrepair and is in desperate need of intervention. That's why we've worked so hard with city staff, heritage staff, to arrive at the proposal that meets with their approval as noted in the report that's before you. If I could ask staff to go back up 1 page to page 6, if it's possible. We have a rendering taken from the southeast. Thank you.
Is that the one?
Shows,
Okay.
That's the one, thank you. That shows, as you can see, the existing building being restored, and then the piece wrapping an outdoor amenity area that would actually be to the north and fronting on Fallingbrook. As you know, the property is at the southeast corner of Fallingbrook Road and Fallingbrook Crescent. One of the interventions that's helpful in making this work is that the driveway would be from the north off Fallingbrook Crescent. The grading on this property is quite dramatic. It means technically there's a reverse slope driveway coming down to the garage, but it's a positive slope back to the street. And I would just note for the committee, there is no negative report that I have seen from either transportation or engineering in regard to that driveway placement or the proposed slope of that driveway. There's also no negative planning staff report. Again, there's been extensive work on this file to get where we are today. If I could ask staff to go back to image 4. This was image 6, so it's probably just 2 pages up to page 25 maybe. There, and for the committee members' benefit, the blue line is the permitted roof height in the bylaw, if you can see it. And there's also a faint green line there that shows the existing home. But what I just wanted to point out for you, the height variance that's being sought as part of this proposal really is just to the turret that's on the east side there, the right side of the screen, as you can see it, this being the west elevation, that'd be the south portion of the building. Most of the building is in fact below the permitted height limit. So although there's a variance for additional height, it's for the architectural element, which is just that turret portion on the building. That also, Madam Chair, triggers the story variance. The existing house is in fact 2 to 3 stories, 2.5 stories. And so the variance technically at 3 stories is largely recognizing what's there, but making sure that there's a fully functional 3rd floor proposed as part of the plans. And then finally, Madam Chair, I thought I would quickly just speak to the length and depth variance in my last few moments. If staff could again go up 2 pages, page 23, page 2, there's a colored site plan. And just so the committee can understand, you can see the existing outline in purple. That's to be removed, and an existing outline in green, which is the heritage house, to be restored. Most of what's proposed is following the old layout of the home and garage portions of the structure. And that's why, and Madam Chair, this is the last thing I'll say, while there is a variance of 51 meters for length and 53 meters for depth, the existing structures themselves under the bylaw would have had a length and depth of 45 meters. And so we are by and large actually keeping to the existing length and depth of what's there on the site today and simply redeploying it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, David, for that presentation. That was very helpful. I think the visuals that you've prepared are self-explanatory in what's there today and what's being requested. So at this point, yes, I'm coming to the committee members, and I see Member Macaulay is waiting to ask her question. Member Macaulay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Maybe if staff could put that last plan back on the screen, it would be helpful. My question to the applicant really is dealing with TRCA's concerns about the development limits. And my concern really is the development limits to the south, which is where the lake is and where the slope is. Are you actually, from what I could figure out, you were adding a basement to the south of the existing property? Is that correct? Or I'm not sure what that little green thing is. It looks like a deck of some sort. Perhaps the applicant can
at the bottom,
just where that is and where you are with TRCA.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So the question is, TRCA are asking for a deferral because of their concern of the addition. And I see that, from what I can understand, there is a basement addition that is in on the south end. If the applicant could explain that and how they are proposing to deal with the TRCA's concerns.
David, can you respond to that, please? Oh, it appears we've lost David. Just bear with us. We're trying to establish contact with David.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I muted myself because I had a dog bark and I didn't realize that I couldn't unmute myself. So thank you for staff for figuring that out for me. It's a very good question. I'm going to give, through you, Madam Chair, Mr. Colley, I'm going to give you two answers to the question. First is just in terms of explaining the blue lines as you see them on the plans. And then the second is to talk about the interactions that have occurred to date with TRCA. And I'm going to be a bit direct, frankly, our surprise at the TRCA letter. So you can see on the site plan a series of blue lines. You see top of slope, you then see the long-term stable top of bank line that we mapped. There's then a 6-meter buffer line, and then the 10-meter buffer line there that we often see in the OP. There is a basement addition. Your eyes are very good, coming south from both the existing structure and the proposed structure, largely in line with the deck. There is a variance sought only for a staircase that comes within the 10-meter buffer. You can see that otherwise all of that intervention is north of the 10-meter buffer from the long-term stable top of bank. So that just explains what's going on in that area there for you. Up until we received the letter, we in fact had positive responses. Yes, correct, Madam Chair. We, in fact, up until receiving the letter, had positive responses and sign off from TRCA. They had been supportive of the proposal. As I understand what's happened is they have subsequently hired a third-party consultant, a coastal engineering firm called Bear Engineering, that have been looking at the Lake Ontario shore behind one Fallingbrook and using new technology. I think they may be proposing a new shoreline hazard boundary, but that hasn't been finalized yet. What we would suggest is rather than deferring, given the frankly extensive work that has gone on thus far and that had in fact secured TRCA support up until this surprise letter, is in fact to add a condition that would require a permit from the TRCA. The one thing I would note is rather than deferring, in their letter, there was a reference to them requiring a coastal engineering study to support the proposed development to ensure that it would be located outside of the shoreline hazard. Our client, through the architects, have in fact already reached out to consultants. And so that is a study that we would be able to do. And so rather than defer, we would just rather continue the work with TRCA, given frankly that they've taken this in a very new and novel direction. I'm not even sure that the proposed hazard line that they have suggested might be located on the property is where it will ultimately be located on the property. And so we would rather just proceed to work with them to get the requisite permit rather than deferring.
Okay, and David, you can confirm that that permit, because it's a regulated area, that would be required as the condition of building permit as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, correct. Even with recent changes to the legislation, it would be a permit from TRCA that would be required. So we will need this permit in any event.
Yeah. Just wanted to put it out for committee's benefit. Yes, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I thank you very much for that explanation. It's a fairly complex property that you're dealing with a beautiful house, but needing some work on it. So thank you very much. And as you have said, and as has been confirmed by our chair, a permit from TRCA would be required prior to any work being done. So I'm not of the opinion that we need to defer this application for that permit. That permit has to happen anyways. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Ms. Macaulay, through you, Madam Chair.
And any matters of concerns from TRCA would be addressed through that process anyway. So that's already there in place, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, any further questions before we move on to speaking with the neighbors? Member Gary, please go ahead.
Yes, Just wanted to ask the applicant then, the staircase at the rear, that staircase, as I understand it, protrudes into the buffer area, but that's the only part of the structure that does. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. McKay, 100% correct. It is. It's the only thing that would protrude.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, I don't see any further questions. However, I would request staff to keep that site plan up, but just so that we don't have any technical glitches going forward in case this has to be referenced. So now we're going to call upon the neighbor, Paul and Ela Vakulik. Thank you. Paul, are you with us? Paul, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good, thank you.
Good morning. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Yes, we filed a letter of concern, actually sort of partially a letter of support and partially a letter of concern in that we welcome the changes being made to the Heritage House. And they certainly look, as we stated in the letter, very good. We call it the Grand Lady of Fallingbrook, and has been long overdue for some renovation care. And also that it'll be occupied again by a family. These are things stated in our letter. And there's been excellent prior residents before, part of the community. And the plans look to improve the heritage look of the building. Right now, and as you're coming down Fallingbrook Road, you can see that house. You can see it's fine. You can see it's overdue for some restoration. However, our issue is with the garage and cabana, the height of them, in that it's going to block the view coming south on Fallingbrook. And a house that has been recently restored and should be admired, basically is only going to be seen from the houses at the bottom end of Fallingbrook and traffic coming off Queen Street. It just seems to be out of character with the neighborhood. If you were to go to the Plan CA supporting material, April 27th, page number 10, which shows 4 photos. The bottom 2 are supposedly south views. They're more like southeast views of the property. That garage and cabana, if you look at the bottom left one, would basically come up to around 2/3, 3/4 of that photo. So with that brown fence there, it would be coming up to around, that is that big tree, the other side of the fence, basically coming up to around 2/3, 3/4 of the tree, and going along to that low-rise building, which currently houses the old pool. So it's a fairly major kind of building going in there, the garage and cabana, very, very major. And our view is, why hide that view of the house? Surely there are other ways to address a garage and a cabana for a pool. And we proposed certainly one in our letter that that pool is only going to be meters away from Fallingbrook Road, a recreation place. A more private place could be on the other side of the property. And the driveway, current driveway, could be retained. Those are 2 suggestions that we've put in the letter. So that is where we're coming from. It's basically a building, an oversized building that's out of character with, what else? And I'm asking my wife here.
Anna here. We live at Fallingbrook Road. We are just north of the CRESCENT. So we look at the house, directly at is existing. Did not always in my life. The sort of another addition which comes off from the beautiful house. But we learned to live with it because it's small and we see over the top of the pool, the house and the gable and the gray of the house. Now with Anna coming in, that could be accommodated, but hopefully at a smaller height so we can still see the house. Wondering for privacy, as my husband said, move it on the other side of the garage, and perhaps have the garage facing the road rather than and you have the driveway there, excuse me, already. Again, welcome to the neighbors, welcome to the improvement, much overdue. I think it's many, many, many years we've just seen it slouch into disrepair and really fear for its safety. So we're so glad it's being rejuvenated, reinvigorated, but just blocking our view of those will be crushing.
It's Paul here again. I did submit, actually, and it's late for the Committee of Adjustment, an image I took from our front lawn, and I superimposed a view of garage and cabana, which I took off the architectural plans, and it's there. I'm not sure whether it's on the website, but certainly the response I got, thank you, but it's a bit late for the Committee of Adjustment to view this hearing. So you can see the obstruction of that oversized building on there.
Okay. Thanks, Paul, for that submission. The image that you're referring to, I believe, was submitted after the deadline, so it was not included in the package, but we certainly got a good idea of what your concerns is. We do have the written submission for sure. We have that, and we have read that, and actually I was following it as you were speaking as well, so I certainly see that. But I just want to clarify one thing. So matters that you've raised are good ideas and suggestions in terms of the design and where the garage should be, and your suggestions and recommendations. But I really want to focus on the application and the variances. And I didn't hear, unless I may have missed it, particularly there was no concern with the 6 variances that were requested. The concerns or the suggestions that you've raised is more around the design of the property, correct?
Yes.
It is correct, yes.
Okay, all right.
The design of the garage and cabana building, it's our view, it's kind of oversized. In fact, with the house plans, the variance which has been brought about by that turret used to exist there before, and
it's wonderful to have it back.
It's a nice, innovative addition to the property. So, and you see it on the, I think, page 6 of the supporting material.
I see that, yes.
There.
Okay.
And it's quite an innovative idea. This is the stuff that we love and we welcome. It's just that this northern building is going to be oversized, and you know, it's a house to be admired by more than the people living across it and the traffic coming off Queen Street.
It will be viewed by the first 5 houses on Queen Street, on Brook.
Okay.
From there, you will only see cabana.
Okay,
and
all
that's
right.
where the letters of support have come from. The letters of support have come from the
people who are going to see the new mansion.
Fantastic. Great comments. I really appreciate that. I think it's going to be a great improvement and a great curb appeal and to the neighborhood. So thank you so much for your comments. We will certainly have David address your comments and suggestions and recommendations around the size of the cabana and the garage and the location. So bear with us until we hear the other neighbor, and then we'll go back to David for a response on those issues.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. So now we're going to move to the next neighbor, Brian Rocks. Hello, Brian.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Yes, yeah, I really welcome the renovation of the house. The original house itself doesn't seem to be a problem with anybody, the character of it and whatnot. It seems to be this garage, cabana, and the location of the driveway. First of all, there must be 20 parking spots on the property with a circular driveway, and it seems to be eliminated now to the driveway being moved on to Fallingbrook Crescent, and I'll address the safety issue in a moment. But yeah, just a circular driveway, you pull in, you pull out, you don't have to back up, kids, etc. And when they do have guests, friends, etc., for multiple functions and birthdays, and I mean, where do they all park? Parking's already a bit of a problem in the area now as it is. So usually when people build, they include parking. And it seems to be a lot of parking's eliminated with this proposal. And it's one thing I wanted to address. Second thing is the location coming onto Fallingbrook Crescent. Presently, you can come out of the house at the southern driveway, and there's 2 stop signs going south on Fallingbrook Road, and then when you're coming east on Queen Street. So it's a complete stop, and people can cross the road safely at the 2-way stop sign. With the proposal of the driveway on Fallingbrook Crescent, when you come north on a hill, and a lot of people drive SUVs and pickups today and whatnot, and you turn right, it's on the sort of blind side, passenger side, over the hood, is right where if anyone walked out of the driveway, it would almost be the contact spot for a pedestrian. And people are coming up that street, they're looking at the beautiful neighborhood, the lake, the filtering views, and it just doesn't seem like the right place for the driveway to be located. Secondly, I live just north of the one Fallingbrook, and the grade from the road to the property is so steep that if the driveway goes there, the lights of the car coming out of the driveway just penetrate most rooms of the front of my house. Living room, kitchen, dining room, bedrooms, that kind of thing. So, you know, when you're not used to that and then all of a sudden it's there, it's a concern. Again, on the driveway, and I guess this will also get into the bylaws and variances, length, depth. Height's not really a concern with me of the original building, but of this garage barn, it certainly is. The original building, it was more, there was no causeway from the house itself to what was originally a garage or a studio, and it had a sunroom. And someone that owned a couple of home and garden TV shows added this causeway so you can walk from the house.
Sorry, Brian, sorry if I may just interject here. I really appreciate these comments, and I think you've written that in your written submission as well, but just being cognizant of the time, you have a little over a minute left, so you may want to just focus on the application and any concerns if you have with the variances that are before us today.
Okay, yeah. So I guess with the variance, I was relating to that in lengths and depths and heights and whatnot. There's 2 existing buildings now. One's a pool and one's that garage. And in between it, there's space. And those space is views to the lake from my property to the north. And that's filled in with this barn structure of cabana garage. And so there's quite, with the addition of these meters, it fills that in and takes away a lot of the view. And it looks nothing like the other houses on the street or the architecture of the other houses, other than a big garage and roof line.
Okay.
So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you very much.
So driveway location, parking, and safety. Thank you.
Okay, driveway location, parking, and then I can confirm, I guess, through staff, is that these applications were circulated to Transportation Department, and we didn't see any concerns or comments from Transportation, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, so technically, from an engineering point of view, the application has been looked at and they haven't flagged anything, but we certainly take your matter into consideration and we'll have David respond to it as well. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and I'm going to go to David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was going to be my first response on driveway location. Is this has been circulated and vetted, and Transportation Services doesn't have any concern with the driveway location. From a safety perspective, I would note 2 things as part of this house. There is the opportunity, in fact, to turn a car in the garage, and there's also the opportunity to do a 3-point turn actually on the site plan that's proposed. So cars will enter and leave in a forward motion up to Fallingbrook Crescent. So from a safety perspective, I think that's a positive. I just, if I could ask staff's indulgence, because I'm going to bounce just between two aspects of the presentation materials. And if they're able first to find the color site plan, and as they're doing that, Madam Chair, I note, yes, there are 2 letters of support from neighbors on Fallingbrook Road directly to the west. I would note, however, the support of the immediate neighbor to the east is before you. And in fact, a short but lovely letter from someone to the northwest at 8 Fallingbrook Road, who you would have assumed had similar concerns about views, but is in fact urging the committee to support this proposal. 18 Fallingbrook is sort of to the northwest of the property. Thank you to staff for bringing that up. That's really helpful, because I'm going to ask the committee just very quickly on this site plan to see the purple lines at the north part of the property, and in particular the purple line at the northwest portion of the property. And what you can see on this site plan is that the existing garage structure actually sits, as you can see, further west on the property, within about 1.7 meters of the property line. This structure, as you can see, is being removed, and it's a 1.5 story cabana in that location. The garage would be at the northeast portion, is actually further away from the property line. And there's a reason I'm flagging this for you. And if I could ask then staff, again, my thanks, to go down to those pictures that one of the speakers asked you to look at, the last page of the pack in the lake. And I think staff, I think it might be page 30 or 31 of that PDF, if you're able to go to it. And this is part of what's been worked out with maybe a little bit more. Oh, sorry, no, it's one more. Apologies. Try page 32. Oh, no, you're right. Sorry, page 31. Thanks, staff. It's the bottom left picture, if you can see it there, which is one of the speakers was talking about that. You can see therefore that existing structure there that would be removed. The new structure, 1.5 stories, is actually further east than what is shown in that picture. So what's actually happening, and you're able to just see behind the trees, and I acknowledge as a winter view, I think in our spring and summer and into the early fall, you're actually, because of the foliage, not going to see a lot of the property. But you can just see the heritage house almost in the V of that one mature tree in the boulevard on Fallingbrook Road there. Exactly. Thank you, staff. By moving this new 1.5 story structure further to the east, we're actually opening up views as you come down Fallingbrook to the house. And you're actually opening up views both across the public realm and across the front of our client's property to the lake. And this is something that I think heritage staff picked up on. This is a good thing. It's not actually making things worse and blocking views. It's actually opening them up from the public realm on the view that the previous speaker was talking about. So this is something that actually I think should be exciting in terms of these views from the public realm, both to this beautiful home and to the lake. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I thought I would just flag those things for the committee's consideration.
Thank you very much for that. And just, I think there was a comment made about the height of the cabana and the garage, and I don't see that as a variance. I'm assuming those meet the requirements of the zoning, correct?
They do, Madam Chair. And if staff need to see it, it's a good point. It was earlier where we had the blue line, if you recall, showing the permitted roof height, and the 1.5 story structure for the cabana would have been picked up on that, and it is well below the roof height, the permitted roof height.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, just so that the neighbors are clear on the permissions and what is being sought here. Okay. Yes, on that elevation that had those lines, I do see that. Okay. It's well below the permitted height. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. Members of the committee, I now come to you. Questions, comments? Any concerns? Member Gary, please go ahead. Gary, do you want to say something? Are you on mute? No, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, a little difficulty with the laptop this morning. I was just wondering if the applicant has seen the urban forestry conditions and whether the applicant is content with those.
Through you, Madam Chair, 100%. They are standard, and we would have to clear them. There's both. There may be urban forestry, and in fact, I think there were maybe 2 memos that might be slightly duplicative, but we are 100% with okay with any urban forestry conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, and the Heritage Preservation Services have also requested to review the plans before issuance of a permit.
Through the chair, there's also ravine and natural area protection comments as well, and a condition.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. So we have urban forestry conditions, we have ravine and natural feature protection comments, then we have Heritage Preservation Services comment, and there was the TRCA memo that we discussed at the beginning, and committee will make a decision on that as well. So I think that covers all the conditions, right? Okay, thank you. So if there are no further questions of David, are we prepared to take the matter into committee now? Members of the committee, I'm asking you. Okay, all right. So let's take the matter into committee. Committee members, any thoughts, any comments, or are we prepared to move forward with the motion? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to move forward with a motion on this application. There looks like there's been a lot of work involved. I think there's still some further work that has to be done, and the applicant had mentioned that. However, I think what we have in front of us is certainly desirable. The community seems looking forward to a renewal of this house. Therefore, I recommend approval of this application for variances, subject to the urban forestry conditions, the natural ravine conditions, the TRCA requirement, and the requirement from Heritage Planning.
Through the chair, TRCA is recommending deferral, and the motion as currently worded is including TRCA as a condition. So I'm not sure if that was the intent of the panel member.
I dealt with the referral or the deferral from TRCA previously, saying that I understand what they're asking for. I understand the applicant has been involved. I know that prior to getting a building permit that they will have to get a permit from TRCA. Whether we add that as a condition or whether it's just naturally a condition, I think doesn't really matter.
So if you were to ask my opinion,
So
Member
I threw
Macaulay,
it in as a condition, because
yeah.
it will happen anyways.
Exactly. If you ask my opinion, I would say it would be required. It is a requirement that the applicant obtains a permit from TRCA for the issuance of a building permit. So I think that those matters could be addressed. And if I recall, David did confirm that if there's any studies required, any of those have already been initiated. So I think they're on path to achieve those objectives and requirements of the TRCA. At this point, in my opinion, there's no need to include those as conditions.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll withdraw the condition from TRCA, knowing that it's going to be addressed in any case.
That is correct, because that's a legislative requirement. It's not something like it's a condition. It is a requirement of the legislation to require that permit for the building permit. Okay, so could you please just confirm your motion then to approve the application subject to urban forestry, ravine protection, and heritage preservation services?
Can I just say yes rather than having to repeat that again?
No, it's good. It's a yes, so the motion's on the floor. May I have a seconder, please? Member Igor, go ahead, please.
I'll second that motion for approval.
Thank you, Igor. All in favor of the motion? The motion's carried unanimously and the application's approved subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Mr. Bronskill. Can I, with a 5-second indulgence, Madam Chair, and I didn't want to say anything earlier because this was an important matter. I just wanted to say through you, it's lovely to see my retired colleague, Mr. McKay. And I wish I was there in person to be able to say hello to him. I didn't want anyone to think that there was a relationship that would have affected this matter. We had just worked together in his former life as a solicitor of the City of Toronto, and I always enjoyed working with him.
Thank you for that comment. And
so I wish I could wave. I wish I could wave to him, Madam Chair. That's all.
Well, he can wave
Thank
back
you.
to you. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have him on our panel as well. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. So we can move now to the next item, and that is 80 SCOTTFIELD Drive. And 80 SCOTTFIELD Drive, can we have the agents? And I know we had Brandon and Bruce, but I believe Mr. Bruce Hall will be the one presenting. So can we have Mr. Hall with us, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your for taking the time to speak with us. So, Mr. Hall, where we left off this morning was that our committee members would like to see a presentation from you on this very important project that you're working on. So, sir, if you don't mind, could you please present to us?
My pleasure. If you could bring up the presentation.
Sure. So, allow us a minute. Staff, can we please have the presentation that was submitted? There we go.
Thank you. If you could go to the second page. For those of you that don't know, Yi Hong is a very important seniors culturally focused housing provider in the City of Toronto in the Greater Toronto Area. They operate over 800 long-term care beds throughout a number of facilities. And they have about almost 3,000 people on their waiting list, which is a provincial registry. Next slide, please. And this is important because, as we know, seniors are the fastest growing age group in Ontario, and there's a real need for affordable living options for seniors. They are in great demand. Toronto has more seniors than youth. This area in particular has a much higher percentage of older individuals and a more diverse ethnic makeup. And the City of Toronto is committed to reducing this long-term care wait list. Next slide, please. And the site, which is just south of Finch Avenue between Middlefield and Markham Road, is an existing seniors care campus, which provides a full range continuum of care from seniors apartments right through to long-term care. And this is good for residents in the neighborhood as well because it provides an option for them to transition from existing homes to care. Next slide, please. This proposal implements both the official plan and zoning. It's a mixed-use area which is intended for growth and development. And the zoning permits the proposed use and the height. It does require some minor refinements, which are the subject of the variances, largely due to existing standards and that the zoning applies to the entirety of all these properties. This was originally intended to be a site for a seniors daycare. It has been determined that there's a more urgent need for more long-term care beds, which has been approved by the province. So that's why we're making some of these changes, but at the same time, there will be seniors daycare programs provided within the new building. Next slide, please. This is just a very quick snapshot, some images of the existing building and the existing stats. I think all we really need to take away from here is that the proposed building is consistent with what exists there today, although it's going to have slightly less number of units, less GFA. It's a lower building, and it has a similar proportion of landscaping. Next slide, please. Just in summary of this project, it's a funded project. Why we're trying to get this done quickly is there's limited funding that's available, conditional on receiving a building permit. So we need site plan approval and this variance to do that. There's 224 beds in a well-designed contemporary building. Very good site design and activated landscape. We worked with Urban Design. They're very supportive of this. There's going to be other amenities, lots of parking. It supports the entire campus for Yeehong, and there will be a creation of a number of jobs here, probably in the order of about 100 new jobs. Next slide, please. The variances at hand are largely, as I said, a function of existing conditions, as well as a refinement of the current makeup of the number of beds and units. So we're increasing the number of nursing beds from 250 to 260 to 490. There are a larger number of beds and units, actually close to 700 that are permitted. We're just changing the makeup. A limited increase in the maximum gross floor area, which is very minor, about 5%. A rear yard setback, which is an existing condition. A street yard setback, which is really due to an air shaft encroachment, very limited extent. It's underground. And then the landscape requirements abutting a residential zone. And this is really an existing condition with the existing home care at 50 to 60 SCOTTFIELD. Next slide, please. We believe that the application meets the 4 tests. It maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. It's intended for growth. The zoning bylaw standards are mostly adhered to. There are minor changes, again, to implement the development proposal. Next slide, please. It's desirable, creates new seniors housing, meeting established needs, is consistent with the character of the area. It is minor in nature. It matches the existing context, and largely represents existing conditions. Last slide, please. And I'll just end on here. We believe it's a great application. It represents good planning and urban design. It's a contemporary facility. Staff supported it proceeding through the minor variance process. Planning staff and council both support it. It will add new housing, and we believe it meets all the tests of the Planning Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your presentation. It was very concise and clear. So at this point, I would refer to members of the committee. Any questions for Mr. Hall? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Mr. Hall, for your presentation. This gave a fair idea. Like, as far as the need is concerned, need of this project is concerned, there is no two opinions. We really need this kind of developments. My point coming towards this elaboration for your variance number 1, when I compare this building, the proposed building with the existing buildings, right? The existing building have a better GFA as compared to the proposed building, and the proposed building have a less GFA. Even in variance number 2, the increase in the floor area is just is not that big. While we look at the numbers of the bed, the number is quite a big, right? You are increasing it to actually 490. And you have the approval from the ministry. Ministry have approved that you have a license for 224 beds. So that is the point where we need a further clarifications, how you reach to these numbers, and whether these numbers are really matching with the other amenities, and especially the GFA requirements, ventilation requirements, and so many other things are there. Are they going to match with the other infrastructure things?
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. The zoning is a little complicated because, as I said, it does apply to the entirety of the Yeehong campus, I'll call it 50-60. the subject proposed site at 80 Scotfield and 90 and 100 Scotfield, which are the seniors. And the reason why there's an increase in the number of units, which seems larger than the GFA, is because there was a building anticipated on this site for a bunch of programs, including a seniors daycare center. So while we are only increasing the gross floor area, which is allowed on the overall site under the zoning marginally by 5%, the increase in the number of units is because it was never anticipated there was going to be units on the building on this site. The GFA, your first comment, it being slightly less than the other buildings, it is, you know, it's not a separate site, but the envelope of where the building is going is quite compact. So we've sized, you know, a building which is appropriate for the dimensions and the shape of that site, and it is well optimized, and that's the license that the ministry has established. So we've achieved what the ministry wants in terms of the number of beds to be provided on this site. I hope I've answered your question. I'm happy to further elaborate if you would like.
So we're just pulling up the site plan for Member Said's benefit here. So the site plan shows how the site is configured today and the new building that's coming in. So there's an existing building on the property, and there was a Mr. Hall, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a site-specific zoning, correct, that allowed for 260 beds, and now with the addition or the proposed 224 beds in that separate building, that's equating to 488, and I know for the purposes of the application, it's kind of been rounded to 490. So 264 existing plus 224 beds, 488, the variance is being requested for just a roundup of the number 499. So you can see the site is compact, and the new building will be located very close to the existing building on the property. So that's, but the total calculations are, or the numbers that you see before us today, Member Said, are based on one parcel. So it's one property with now two buildings on it. And that's what's causing the number or the variances.
Yes, and through you, Madam Chair, the site-specific zoning was really an implementation of a previous development concept of Yihong themselves. And they've obviously got this license. They've got a license to create 224 new long-term care beds. They actually have permission on the entirety of the site under the site-specific zoning for 679 beds or units. And that's the problem, is that it distinguishes between beds and units. And what we're really doing is saying, let us change the mix and now supply 224 new beds. And that total is 792. So we're really only increasing the number of units by about 112 or 13 on a site which really wasn't originally approved for anything but a building which contained programming and seniors daycare. And I think this is a very positive improvement. It meets provincial policies in terms of intensification. We're still providing services, and yet 224 badly needed beds that have approval, that have funding. I think it's a really good reconciliation of the zoning.
Thank you for that, Mr.
Thank you.
Hall. Okay. Member Said, does that help you, or do you have any follow-up questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's really helped me. Yes, you got the license for 224 addition, and in the number is 224. What if we take up the total number, then it's give a different picture. But that was a good answer. I am okay with that. Madam Chair, I have another questions before it go to the other committee members and to Mr. Hall. That is about the landscape requirements. If it is included in the same parcel, as you said, it's whether it's a 50 Scotfield or 60 Scotfield, and now it is going 80 Scotfield. What I look into, the other buildings are not meeting the landscape requirements. You know, is this building have also, because it's in the same parcel, is it meeting the landscape requirements, or it's the same case as the other building have?
If it would be convenient, Madam Chair, if
Mhm.
you or another
Mhm.
member of staff who's controlling the cursor could move it above where it says 80 Scottfield Drive, and there's a bunch of parking at the north end of the site. If you see all those parking spots strung out along the top, a bit further up to the north.
To the north, bit further up, right there?
Yes, right there,
Okay,
right
so-
where all those parking spots are.
So
yes.
that
So
bank of parking
that-
there, okay.
Correct. So the variance before us today is not relation to the percentage or the overall amount of landscape. It's to do with the landscape buffer to that property line.
Mhm.
And again, because we are looking at zoning that applies to the entirety of the site, and the application has to consider existing zoning, that is caused by the fact that that buffer is 6 meters instead of 7.5, and it exists like that today. So it's something that we have to deal with. There is trees and fencing along that property line, as well as if you look at the north part of where the proposed 5-story retirement home is going, there's a driveway coming in to access that parking. And on the north side of that driveway, where there's a landscape strip, there's going to be additional planting put in that area in order to provide, at least for the impact of this building, some buffering and some view protection. So there is proposed landscaping. This application, as I said, is going through site plan approval. At the same time, we're very, very far advanced in that application process, and we're nearing close to being approved. We need the variances to be dealt with, obviously, in order to get NOAC. So that will be a site plan matter that's dealt with and implemented through the site plan control. As far as other landscaping on the site, there's very good urban type landscape along the other frontages of the laneway, and SCOTTFIELD Urban Design has been very instrumental, and we've had several meetings. They're quite happy with what we've done, as well as there's a green roof on the new building.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Member Said, does that help you? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, unless I missed, members of the committee, any further questions? I don't see any. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for taking the time to provide us with this presentation and answer our questions. I will now take the matter into
My pleasure.
Before we go, there were conditions of urban forestry, and you have knowledge of those?
Yes, and we are fine with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Macaulay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This isn't dealing with the variance per se, so much as dealing with the development itself. And I took a good look at this development. I have dealt with the seniors housing elsewhere in Scarborough. And so I looked at what was being provided in terms of services to the seniors, in terms of daycare services, in terms of dialysis services. I looked at the design in terms of it being bird friendly, and that the roof is going to be permeable roof. All of those don't really deal with the variances, but they're good attributes for this site. And so I just wanted to make that as a comment.
Thank you, Member Macaulay, for those positive comments. Okay. Are we ready for a motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bruce Hall, again, for your presentation. Very precise and to the point, answers our questions. And thank you, Member Ann, for your really good comments on that. It's really much needed project, and we support that. Madam Chair, I would put forward a motion for approval of item 12, and there are urban forestry condition number 1 and 2 attached to that approval.
Thank you very much for that. Seconder, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion carries unanimously and the application has been approved subject to conditions. Thank you. Okay, we now move to our next item, and that is item 14. Item 14 is 23 Knowlton Drive. Can we please have the agent? I don't want to mispronounce the name, so I'm going to go with the last name. It's Zhu, Miaoui Zhu.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Yeah.
That's okay. Please kindly state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Miaoui Zhu, and we are from Land and Building Experts, located 570 Eldon Road.
Okay, thank you, Miaoui, for joining us.
This is for application 23 Knowlton Drive.
Okay, so Miaoui, do you have any comments at this time? Do you have a presentation that you wish to make today?
Yeah, we can give out a short presentation, and we're willing to hear the neighbors' comments because I do see some letters from the neighbors.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes, Miaoui. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So, yeah, our project is to demolish the existing dwelling and to construct a new two-story dwelling at 23 Knowlton Drive. And the property is designated as neighborhoods in the section 4.1 of the official plan. And the official plan recognizes that neighborhoods are not static, meaning there will be change in these areas. And some physical changes are expected to occur within these areas in form of enhancements, additions, and infill housing. So our project, we would like to ask a minor variance for the following concerns. So the maximum floor space index for the lot for this property is 0.4 times the lot area. So the allowed floor area is 279 square meter, and the proposed floor area is 370 square meter. The permitted maximum height of the building is 9 meters, and the proposed height is 9.35 meters. The permitted height of all side exterior main walls facing a side lot line is 7 meters, and the proposed is 7.17 meters. The permitted area of each platform at or above second story of the detached house is 4 square meters, and the proposed area of the second story front balcony is 8.1 meters. So, yeah, those are all the variances we required. And I believe there are some similar projects got approved recently, and hopefully the committee members can consider our project, and we're willing to answer all the public questions.
Okay, thank you, Miaoui. Miaoui, I have a question. I look at your variance number 3, the variance that is related to permitted height of all side exterior main walls facing a side lot line. And you're asking for a 0.17 increase. Did your architect or designer or yourself, did you look into whether, if there was an opportunity to comply with the zoning and not, because I don't have the calculator in front of me, but it appears to be it's a couple of inches only, or maybe 2-3 inches. Did you consider trying to comply with the zoning requirement of 7 meters?
Yes, we did lower the ceiling slightly, and because right now we would like to have a 10 feet first floor and 9 feet second floor, and we have the basement that's about 3 feet 3 inches above ground, and because this calculation was counted from the established grade, which is slightly lower. That's why we got this 7.17 meters.
Correct.
But if necessary, we can try bring it down. Like we can reduce several inches to make the main wall comply with the.
No, it's not necessary. It's indeed minor in nature, but I wanted to just confirm if you looked into trying to comply. But I see what you're the reason being that it's being calculated from the established grade, so that's fine. But I just wanted to double check with you. Also, it sometimes helps in flushing it out when you're speaking with the neighbors and for everyone's benefit. Okay. My committee members, do you have any questions? I see none. Okay. All right. So let's move on and speak with our neighbors who have registered to speak. So we'll start with Peter Thachek. And Peter, are you with us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Committee, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Peter Thachek, and I am a director of the Incorporated Not-for-Profit Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association. I understand there's also a number of neighbors who are here to speak, and I know letters of objection have been sent in. May I ask that we screen share the our letter of objection from that was submitted?
Sure, we can do that, sir. Just allow us a few seconds here.
Okay, thank you. Our association is opposed to 2 of the 4 variants proposed in the application to replace the dwelling at 23 Knowlton Drive. Specifically, the requested variances for floor space index and for the balcony. If I could ask that you move to page 3 of our letter of objection.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Firstly,
the one that has pictures on it?
I'm being mindful of time, Madam Chair.
No. And we will accommodate that. It's just that technology is not our best friend today. Every time we're trying to move stuff around, it goes into a bit of a glitch. So, but we can certainly accommodate you.
I can appreciate that. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. We can't control this, so it's fine.
Okay, thank you. That's just a picture of the subject. Firstly, the application requests an FSI of 370.89 meters squared, which is 32.6% or 91.27 meters squared larger than what is permitted. In Imperial, this is close to 1,000 square feet, which is equivalent to the size of either of the abutting homes. An additional 1,000 square feet cannot be considered minor and is certainly not representative of the character of any of the homes in the immediate vicinity. And I think if you're able to move to page 4 of our letter, you'll be able to see.
If only we could move, sir. Technology is just acting up today. So just give me a second. So is this the page that you're referring to?
Yes, that page and the next one.
Okay, so next one, just, there you go, perfect.
Perfect. All right, just to give you an idea. The 16 homes on Knowlton Drive between Mason Road and Loch Leven, which includes the subject, are all either bungalows or story-and-a-half homes. It is these bungalows and story-and-a-half homes that represent the prevailing character of this neighborhood, as opposed to the design being proposed by the applicant. If I could add, I've got one more change in the, if you could go to page 6. It's a page with the charts. There we are. Okay, please, thank you. Please note our charts on FSI and GFA of our letter here. The measure of central tendency of the homes on Knowlton Drive is 115.59 meters squared, ranging from 94.02 meters squared to 153.75 meters squared. At 370.89 meters square, or almost 4,000 square feet, the proposed dwelling is more than 3 times the measure of central tendency of homes in the neighborhood. I'm going to address the second variance, and that's for front balcony. At 8.1 meters squared, the proposed front balcony is double the permitted size. In our opinion, this is not minor. and is certainly not characteristic of any homes in the immediate neighborhood. It's a long-standing belief, a principle subscribed to by committees of adjustment, that if there is a negative impact and an alternative solution, approval should not be granted. Simply wanting relief from existing bylaws does not satisfy the burden of proof that is clearly borne by the applicant. The applicant's answer to the question, why is it not possible to comply with the bylaws on their application states in order to have enough rooms for a large family? Well, I think all of us can appreciate anyone's desire to accommodate their family. We do not feel that the answer is sufficient to discharge the burden of proof that is clearly on the applicant in answering the question, why is it not possible to comply? I know I don't need to remind committee that official plan policy 4.15C is not only there to give intent and direction to the applicant, it is also there to provide certainty to the neighborhood. In closing, while we welcome and support positive developments in our neighborhoods that build within as of right, we are respectfully requesting that committee refuse the variances for FSI and balcony on the grounds that they do not represent appropriate development of this site. As quite simply, it is just too big. Thank you for providing us with the opportunity to address you this afternoon.
Good. Thank you, Peter, for your comments. I do, for record, note that we have your comments on file. We have received these, and there's additional letters of objection. So, and I'm glad how you focused on the variances so that we're clear as to exactly what the concerns are. So appreciate that succinctness. Members of the committee, any questions for Peter? I see none. All right. Okay, thank you, Peter. We will try to get a response from the applicant on your concerns raised and the two variances. So we are going to now move and speak with Fred Bernard. Fred Bernard.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Residents Association, and I would like to reiterate his position as mine and other neighbors I hope you hear from today on that. It is the variance for the it's an exception one, the 370.89 square meters. It is just I cannot believe the audacity of someone claiming that's a minor variance, but that's opinion, and I respect the committee's decision on something like this. I am 2 doors away from it, so I'm not the adjoining neighbor who is a brand new neighbor, new to Canada, and I tried to help with them. He put in an objection letter, but he didn't get a time in to speak. But the size of this house, it's really the only variance I have a problem with. It just doesn't fit. It will dwarf our areas. And for all of us who have done applications for permits to improve our properties, we've all tried to adhere to the letter of the law. And I think the zoning bylaws are fantastic and are very acceptable to the neighborhood. I have no problem with a new house being built. In fact, it is a welcome addition to our neighborhood because of the property that was there. It has been a rental unit that has multiple bylaw infractions against it because of cleanliness and upkeep. And so we're really looking forward to this addition to our neighborhood. It's just too big, as the Residents Association stated very clearly. The graph was wonderful. Hopefully everybody could see how much this just doesn't fit in. And again, my only objection is the square footage. The balcony, it's on the front, so it doesn't affect anybody's privacy in the back. But that's just my opinion. I respect the committee's decisions, and I hope they deny this one variance for the exact reasons. It is a major variance and not minor at all. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Fred, for taking the time to speak with us. And confirming and clearly submitting your concern with the application as it relates to variance number 1. Now, members of the committee, any questions for Fred? Okay, see none. All right, thank you. Let's move on and we'll speak to our next neighbor, Henry Lam. Hello, Henry. Hello, Henry, are you with us? No? He's there? Okay. And is he unmuted at our end? Okay, so Henry, you have been unmuted at our end. Hello? Okay. Henry, again.
Hey, sorry, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
My apologies.
No problem.
Yeah, so I did write. Yeah, I'm Henry. So I am the neighbor that lives directly in front of the house. I actually wasn't. I didn't know I was going to be speaking today, to be quite honest. But I'll just do a quick summary. So I did put in a letter of objection. Again, my concern really is the size of the home. It's just, like I guess to the other points that were mentioned earlier. If you look on Street View with the neighboring homes, the community, majority of the homes are bungalows. They're not, they're not two-story homes. So that would be my concern.
Sorry, so your concern is with a two-story home?
Sorry, my concern is the size of the overall unit that they're looking to build.
Okay, so if I were to, without giving, putting words in your mouth, you're looking at the first variance, you're concerned with the size of the home that's being proposed, not literally the two-story, but just the size of the home, correct?
Yeah, it's just the size of the home. That's my
Okay.
concern. It just doesn't fit in the street, Knowlton Drive. We don't have any other home on the street that is of that size.
So you mean a large
It takes away the
size?
character of.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it takes away the the character of the community. Again, that's my opinion, right? But I respect whatever decision that comes out of this from the team.
No, fair enough, not a problem. So yes, I do see that the character is definitely, single-story bungalows on the street and sort of wide lots. 2 stories is permitted as of right, so just so you know, so even if someone were to come in today and build a 2-story home, that would comply with all the regulations, they have the right to do so. But I certainly gather that your concern is with the large size of the house.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but from my view is we have rules and we have bylaws and, that type of stuff. And
Right.
if everyone's coming in and asking for variance and getting approved, then I don't see a value of having any of these rules and laws being in place. Right. And then my other concern, it's not related to this, is there's been numerous bylaw infractions with this property. It is a rental home currently. I mean, if the owners aren't able to upkeep it today, I don't know, how are they going to upkeep it with the new house?
Okay.
That's my concern, right?
So that I can't help you with is the violations on the property. I cannot, this committee cannot help you with that, but it's been noted. Thank you very much. Committee members, any questions for Henry? I see none. Okay, and just for record, Henry, we do have your written correspondence as well. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for taking time to speak with us. So I would now go back to the applicant or the agent, Miaoyi Zhu. Are you with us?
Yes.
Yes. So Mia, you heard concerns very clearly described by the neighbors. Pretty much all 3 of them had concerns with the size of the house or the FSI that's being proposed. And I think the first submission related to the size of the front balcony. So how would you like to respond to it, please? And you have 5 minutes.
Yes, so the zoning permits is 2-story, and the intent of the maximum floor area requirement for the zoning bylaw is to prevent the overbuilding of the lot. But in our case, the excess floor area results from the replacement of the bungalow with a 2-story dwelling, which is in keeping with the emerging pattern of the development. So the required because right now the lot coverage is comply with the bylaw, but in order to have a 2-story house to accommodate the owner's growing family, and we will need the minor variance for the floor areas.
Okay, I'm having a difficulty in understanding the relationship between a two-story home and an FSI, but I see your point. Essentially what it is that your client requires a larger home because you can very well build a 279.62 square meter home in a two-story form. But I think it's what it is your client requires a larger home, correct?
Our client do need a larger house, and the two-story house is a more like usable.
Yeah, there's no questions about two-story being permitted. You're permitted as of right, absolutely. But two-story can be within the permission or could be larger. So the variance is essentially requesting for a larger house than what's permitted. Okay, so anything else that you would like to add, and also the size of the platform?
The size of the platform, that's fronting the street. That's not, that has nothing to do with the neighbor's privacy. But that one, we can reduce the size as well. But for the gross floor area, we are willing to have this one in order to have a proper, like, 2 stories dwelling.
Okay, so you are willing to make an amendment to the platform at the front of the house, but you're not prepared to make any revisions to the FSI. Correct?
I mean, that's ideally, but
Yeah.
if we, yes.
Okay, so what's the revision that you would like to propose for the platform?
We can just reduce the width of the platform.
I don't see a width of the platform. I can see the size of the platform.
Yes, the size of the platform, that's 8 square meter. We can bring that one down to 5 square meter.
5 square meters, okay. So if that's your submission, that's what we have in front of us. So the applicant is requesting for a change in the application for variance number 4 to reduce it to 5 square meters. Is that accurate, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, so the required or the permitted, maximum permitted platform is 4. The applicant is making an amendment to propose a 5 square meter front balcony. Okay. Committee members, I'm coming to you now. Do you have any questions or comments for Miawi? Committee members? No? Okay, all right. If you have any concerns, you can make them if you have any questions at this point. Otherwise, I'll take the matter into committee. Okay, I'll take the matter into committee. I just want to confirm that there were no conditions. Okay, there are no conditions. Okay, thank you, Miayu, for taking the time to speak with us. Any closing comment before I go into committee?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, committee members. The application has been slightly amended to reduce the requested front balcony from 8.1 square meters to 5 square meters, and the applicant confirmed that there were no changes being made or amendments being made to the FSI. Okay? Any comments, any thoughts? Member Macaulay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could staff bring back the graph that the Community Association shows, showing the proposed size of this house compared to what is in the area?
Through the chair, just give us 1 minute. We're trying to get the PDF to come back.
Thank you, Eric, for that. So Member Macaulay, just bear with us. It's been a little challenge today in bringing up stuff on screen, so staff's diligently working on it.
Thank you. And I'm actually glad I'm not in that rotunda area. It's last time when we saw the challenges that staff were having. So I acknowledge that they are having some problems.
Yeah, technology is as great as it is, but sometimes there are issues.
Okay, Madam Chair, perhaps I'll proceed while we're waiting for that to show up.
We can follow you
This
through
is an
because we
area
have it
that-
on our agenda. So if you can point us, oh, there it
Oh,
is.
perfect.
Almost there, almost there.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. This is an application in an area that hasn't had a lot of change. I've been in that area. My parents used to live there over 20 years old, so over 20 years ago, so I know that that's a fairly older area. But I'm concerned that when we are looking at change, and I expect change to occur in that area, that we set the parameters correctly, that we don't start to say, yes, these houses are going to be 1,000 square foot larger than permitted. 1,000 square foot larger is actually more than the existing houses. The existing houses are a bungalow and a half. So they're probably under 2,000 square feet. I'm concerned when we start to give one of the first applications in a new area an over large floor space index approval. And therefore, I would recommend that this application be refused, that the applicant go back, she's building a new house, take a look at what can be built under the existing zoning bylaw and see how that can accommodate her and her clients' wishes rather than trying to increase the density by, as I said, over 1,000 square feet for this area. Thank you. That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. So Member Macaulay, while I have you and while we have this image on the screen, I want to say that yes, I agree. I mean, that in your opinion, it's non-minor, it's larger than or something that you're not ready to support. But I also want to draw your attention to this particular graph and to connect it to the point that you made. This may, and again, I'm not 100% on the entirety of the neighborhood, but this appears as this would be one of the first sort of rebuilds in the area. So definitely this graph is skewed in my opinion, in the sense that if this is the first time, so that's definitely you are going to see that red bar really spike up for both the variances. So the spike is definitely being seen in context of what there is today. So I just want to point out that yes, it will be by default skewed because this is the first time, this is the first one, because there's no other being or this house being larger.
Yeah, and that actually is my point too, Madam Chair, that being the first one in the area, it will set the precedent for what else is happening in the area. And you can see by that graph that the houses in the area are quite a bit lower than what the zoning bylaw permits.
Because they have not been built to their full potential or what they could under the bylaw.
That's correct. But that line at the top, sort of that wiggly line, shows what is the existing zoning potential.
I see.
And I'm not prepared to go above the existing zoning potential, knowing that it's going to make a big change in that area anyways, to something that is so much larger. I think we need to take reasonable steps as we are changing the character of an area. And reasonable steps, in my opinion here, is keep that FSI, allow 2 stories, allow larger houses, but don't allow houses that are over 1,000 square feet over what the zoning bylaw permits. We are showing this as a floor space in numbers as 370 versus 279, not as a percentage. So I haven't done the math to do the percentage, but it's easy to say 100 square meters bigger than what is permitted, or 1,000 square feet bigger than what is permitted is a very large house.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Member Macaulay. Any further comment or thought from other members? Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I echo what my other colleague was stating, and especially, Madam Chair, the setting of the precedent when there is a beginning of a new house is there, new build, new architecture. 2-story, definitely they are allowed. They are allowed to build the house, whatever is permitted. But for this particular street, Knowlton Drive, and this particular development, taking into consideration the variance number 1, I believe it is not a minor variance, and because it will take away the character of the street. So with that, Madam Chair, I believe that the committee, or in my opinion, I think this is not a minor variance.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, so if there are no further comments from other members, unless there are any, Member Igor, Member Gary, I'm just checking. Okay. All right.
Madam Chair,
Please.
I'll just say yes. I'm in agreement with our 2 members who have spoken. So the points have been made, and I agree with those. That's all I have to say.
Appreciate that. Okay, if that's the case, then I guess we can move forward with the motion. So can I have a motion, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I put forward a motion to refuse this application in its entirety as inappropriate and not in keeping with the character of the area. It is not a minor variance.
The application's been reviewed as amended. So, Member Macaulay, just a point of, again, it's a procedural thing. So the application was amended.
As amended.
Okay, so the application has been refused. Oh, sorry, the motion is to refuse the application as amended. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, go ahead.
I second the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, and all in favor of this motion? Okay, the motion carries and the application has been refused. Thank you, and I think that was the last one on the agenda for the morning session. Right? Okay. So that brings us to the end of the agenda for the morning session. So we've dealt with all the 15 items in the morning session. I guess our next session is scheduled to begin at 1:30. Okay, so we will come back at 1:30. And is there an announcement for the stream or anything, member? Colin?
Through the chair, for anybody viewing on YouTube, if you wish to view the afternoon session, please log off this stream and click on the PM stream, and we will be reconvening at 1:30.
Thank you, Colin. So see you all at 1:30.